You joined then.
All right. Is that better?
it's, it's not, but I'll try and listen very very carefully and make the most of it.
Okay, sounds good.
So so going back to the first question, the skill set differences between singles players and doubles players. I just want you to continue with that a little bit, please.
Yeah, so for the people who just joined in here, I was saying that, first of all, tactically, you have to understand that the doubles court is different than the singles court. Obviously, you have another person there, you have the alleys, but it kind of changes the dynamic of the court. You have to understand what's your ball, what's not your ball, where to position yourself at the doubles court, which the singles court is not really nearly as important. So that's number one. Number two is you have to have good hands, be good at the net. Most of the points in doubles are going to end at the net. Uh, For those of you who think that the pros are playing one-up-one back and that's how you should play, the stats show that of all the points that were played, this is from Craig O'Shaughnessy, the 2015 Australian Open, all the points that were played in doubles, 60% ended in an error, and of the 40% points that were winners, only 3% were winners from the person standing at the baseline. The other 37% were winners from the person standing at the net. So the best ground strokers in the world can hit a winner 3% of the time. So you have to have good net skills, and you have to have good volleys if you're going to be good at doubles.
How can we be better communicators on the doubles court? I know that's something that is goes with personalities, and a lot of players have got different partners all the time. But how can we communicate with our
Yeah.
partners better?
Well, I mean, the first thing is to understand, or if you don't know your partner, ask them. Some people like to be talked to, some people don't. Some people want instruction and constant reinforcement. Other people just prefer to stay to themselves. When you're a seasoned team, like most teams are, the WTA and ATP tours, they know each other really well. So I knew when I could communicate with Natasha or whoever my partner was, as I'm sure most players do. They know each other really well. But in the USTA league world, a lot of times you're thrown in playing with somebody you've never played before. You might not know them that well. So just a simple question is, before you start the match, do you like to talk or do you like to stay quiet? And heed their advice. If somebody does not like to be talked to, then don't yap after every point. And if somebody likes to be communicated with, then try to be more communicative with them. But above all, being positive, like positive communication goes a long
Yep.
way. And I tell players, there's nothing when your partner's playing bad, there's nothing you can do to help them play better, but there's a lot you can do to help them play worse by the things that
Yep.
you say and do. So staying positive, obviously, is key to successful communication.
That's a great answer. I was going to ask you, who do you put on the ad side? I know that most of the important points are on the ad side. Do you base it on the better returner or who has the better backhand volley? How do you
So
choose that?
I have a little algorithm to go through. Like the first thing is if there is a better player. So if you're playing league tennis and there's like 4-0 and a 3-5, let the 4-0 take the pressure points. A better player should take the outside. In mixed doubles, that often the guy. So a lot of times you'll see the guy taking the outside. So that's number one. If there's no clear better player, then I like the strong ground strokes on the outside. So if you have a good forehand, you play the forehand. If you have a good backhand, you play the backhand. So if you want to play the outside, you should have a pretty good backhand because you're going to get a lot of backhands out there. And then the third thing I evaluate are the volleys. I like to put weak volleys on the outside, right? So if you have a good backhand volley, you should be playing the D side. Then you have the backhand volley in the middle. But if you have a weak backhand volley, you want to play the outside so you can hide that weakness into the alley at the net. So that's kind of, you go through all those, and hopefully after that you have a clear answer. If you don't, flip a coin and see whoever wants it more. And if you don't win the first set, then switch.
That's good. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
What about who serves first?
So definitely the stronger server. Like when you have one break in a set, the stronger server will serve out for the set, or the match if it's in the second set. So the person who's most confident with their serve, also the person who maybe just not start out nervous. Sometimes when we start out playing, we start a little bit nervous. So you don't want to lose your first set right away, your first serving game right away. Um, So yeah, those are the two things that I consider.
Okay. And then obviously there's a lot of like recreational players that probably are watching this looking for tips. If you don't have the strongest serve, is it still a good idea to use the tee or the body to take away return angle?
Yes, it's always good to serve to the body. It's very highly underutilized. Serving to the tee on regular formation is a good idea. Cut away the angles. You have to be careful serving to the tee on Australian or I formation because pros do it. Pros serve down the tee because they have really strong serves and they can get the opponent stretching. But recreational players who have weak serves are not so hard. If you serve down the tee and you don't hit a good serve, the opponent's going to step in and hit a ball cross court into the open court. You're going to have a hard time getting her. So I prefer for Australian or I formation, I prefer wider to the body for recreational players, unless you have a really big serve.
Got it. What about, do you recommend signing for recreational players, USTA players?
I don't. And the reason is I think they can be a little bit confusing. Excuse me one second. Can you get the dog? Sorry, I have a dog going crazy. I just bought a new puppy, and I also have a cat, and they've been like having a little bit of a go at each other, so I think she's going crazy. But so wait, what was the question?
It was, do you recommend signing? Yeah.
So I don't love them. I think they're confusing. They're even confusing for pros. I tell this story. I was watching. Sorry about that. My phone just rang. I was watching Continent and Pierce play the same finals of the Australian Open, not this year but last. And Pierce was starting to get to the finals of the Australian Open, which is a big deal with him being Australian. It's a big deal in any case, but to make your home Grand Slam is a bigger deal than making any regular Grand Slam. He was serving for the match at 5-4, 30-15, and then all of a sudden Continent gets up the net and gives him a signal. And I thought, well, that's really strange, and because they hadn't been doing it, or at least I hadn't seen them doing it. And so he gets the signal, and they both went the same way. It's like, oh, they messed it up. So then it went to 30-all, and then the next point, they lost the next point, so now it's 30-40. And 30-40, they do a signal again, and again, they both went the same way. So here are the best players in the world, guys are in for his Grand Slam final, and they mess it up. They messed it up twice in a row. So I think it's, you miss the opportunity to communicate with your partner. You miss the contact face-to-face or the communication with your partner, like I said. So I think I prefer talking. And the other reason I don't like him is because as the server, I never wanted my partner telling me what to do when I was serving because she didn't know how I was feeling on any given day. Some days the wide serve was feeling better than the T serve. And also the ball that was coming back. Like maybe I prefer the forehand grip return than the backhand slice dinker, so there's so many elements, so many things to consider when you're picking a serve that, most of the time if I was serving, I would call the serve and my partner would agree and she wouldn't disagree with me. If my partner was returning, if my partner was serving, I would suggest if she was struggling with coming up with word serve, I would make a suggestion. I'd say, okay, let's try this. And she had the full power to say, no, I don't want to do that. But generally, the server is the one that's calling the shots and in control of the holding. Makes sense. That's why I don't like them. Yeah.
Yep. What I learned from you quite a while ago was staggering, and it really helped me and the players that I work with. Thank you very much for illuminating that.
That's great.
Can you describe that a little bit to people who are listening?
Yeah. So when you stagger, two players are at the net and they're not even with each other. We've all been taught to move side to side, and even pros move side to side. The difference with the pros is like we know where to stop. We don't continue moving sideways past 18 inches from the alley, so we never get anywhere near the alley, really. Or the good pros don't. So the other thing it does, it eliminates middle confusion because when two players are even with each other and the ball comes through the middle, you don't really know whose ball it is. Like it's we have to when I ask this question when I do my clinics, and the answers that I get are usually like the forehand gets it, or the forehand gets it, but what if it's too far away from the forehand? The forehand can't get it. So really the answer is you don't really know. You don't know who's getting the middle ball if you're standing even with each other, and you have to judge that ball as your opponent hits it. You have like a 0.07 seconds to decide where that ball's going. If it's going, if it's here, it's mine, but if it's over there, it's yours. And our brains don't think the same way. So you might think it's mine, I might think it's yours, and we crash, or no one goes, and that's even worse than crashing. So we fix that by staggering. We staggering one person slightly in front of the other, 2 feet, 1 feet, couple inches, and the person who's closest to the ball forever and ever in doubles for the
Yeah.
last 100 years, and for the next 100 years, whoever's closest to the ball has the first right at the ball. It's not your my half, your half from the deuce ad perspective, but it's my half if I'm in front, your half if you're behind me. So when you stagger, the person in front is very clearly responsible for the middle ball. Pros are not physically staggered often. You will find some points when they are staggered, but generally speaking, they're even with each other, but they're mentally staggered. So if I was across from my partner and the lob went over my partner, a down the line lob went over my partner, I knew that was my lob. And the reason I didn't stagger when I was playing was because I didn't have to. Like I could cover the whole court from the non-staggered position, and I really understood what was mine, what was not. With recreational players, it's so important that somebody guards for the lob at all times, because the lob is one of the biggest weapons in the recreational game.
Yeah.
Not only because it's because it's a good weapon to have the lob, but also because the overheads are weak. There's a lot weaker movement going back to overheads, and a lot of players with weak overheads. So when you stagger, the person across the incoming ball is responsible for the lob. So the ball side person gets the middle ball, and the cross person gets the lobs.
Do you think that is there varying degrees of staggering as well? So like maybe a 3-0 level, they stagger further back because the lobs are more prevalent.
Correct. Yeah, and I always say the higher the level, the less staggering is necessary. And in fact, college players, pros, like I said, you don't really see them stagger that much, because from the middle of the box position when I was playing, and pros now can cover the whole court. Like no lobs getting over anyone, right? So you stagger, so you guard for the lob. But if you're 6'4", you don't have to stagger as much as if you're 5'2", right?
Yeah.
And you can translate that to meters. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know meters, but if you're a tall person, then you don't have to go as far back than if you're a shorter person.
Got it. So there's a question here from Austin Price. Is it always the right move to attack the weaker player? Sometimes I try so hard to attack that side of the court and end up missing more often.
Well, I want to know what his level is, because a lot of these answers are level dependent. You want to attack the weaker player as long as you are hitting the right shot, right? So in doubles, when you hit down the line, if you get your team in trouble, if you're hitting a ball at the net person because it's weaker and you hit it down the line and you don't win the point, then you're going to get, okay, so he's a 4-0. So you're going to get your team in trouble. So I would say no. For you, at 4-0, unless there's a huge difference in the levels, you have to hit the right shot first. And maybe you attack the volley or attack the weaker player when you think you can put the ball away. Remember, if you're missing, remember that the mentality of those players is not how do I win a point, but it's how do I draw the error for my opponent, or how do I set up my partner to finish the point for me. Only 3% of the times when you're at the baseline, you're going to win the point. So unless you're at the net, you're thinking, how am I going to help my partner win this ball? So if you're hitting to a weaker player and you're hitting down the line, you're trying to play singles on the doubles court. So I say don't. I say just play the tactical correct shot, which is cross court through the middle.
Yeah, that's a really good point. With players and poaching, I guess there's sort of two types of poaching. There's planned poaching and reading poaching.
Yeah.
Should players be trying to plan their poaches more at a recreational level rather than waiting for the point to get started and then looking for their chances?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my answer to this, what I tell people is, the timing of the poach is critical, because if you're trying to time a poach, when you leave for that, if you leave too soon, they're going to go behind you. If you don't leave soon enough, you're not going to get there. And the exact time of when you should leave, no one can answer. It's a physics problem, right? Because there's two moving objects and an interception point. You're moving, the ball's moving, and where is it going to intercept each other? Yeah. So very difficult for amateurs, because the ball travels faster than you do, right? Or me now. Pros are so fast, they can just take off and get there. So what I tell recreational players now is I like planned switches. So when you have a planned switch, you and your partner have an agreement that on the first ball, second ball, third ball, whatever number ball that your opponent is hitting, you're going to switch. So they know you're switching, and you just give them a number 1, 2, 3 behind your back, and we all know on the third ball that my opponent hits, we're gonna switch. You can take off sooner because you're not worried about your opponent going behind you, and your partner is going to start running to cover the down the line shot if you leave too soon. Um, so yeah, so for recreational players, I think time poaches are very difficult. Um, the other thing that you can do at the maybe higher levels, 4.0 plus 4.5, is have there's sort of a plan poach given what your opponent's hitting. So say your opponent's serving and volleying, right?
Yep.
And you hit a return, and you can say to your partner, if I hit the return and my opponent's hitting we're talking let's do ad side first. Okay, so I'm returning on the ad side, and you say to your partner, if I get it to the incoming server's backhand volley, then you take off. So you hit the return. If they're hitting a backhand volley, then you're going to take off. You can take a little sooner because I'm going to start running down the line to get that one. Same thing with on the do side, you would do it on the forehand volley. You don't want to do it on the inside volleys because with the inside volleys, it's easier to go behind you than it is with an outside volley.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I know we've all seen like long lob rally cross courts, baseliner to baseliner. What can you do if you're the net player and you've basically been taken out of the point?
You mean they're like lobbing back?
Yeah, lobbing cross court. Net players aren't really doing anything. What can they do to get involved?
I mean, I tell the baseliner to come in. You know, I talk about the best position in doubles, which I call the holy grail, which is 2 players at the net against 1 up, 1 back on the other side. Statistically speaking, and the data shows that if you can get a team 2 at the net with 1 up, 1 back on the other side, the 2 at the net are going to win the majority of the points. So if you're stuck in this back and forth rally, just take one of those balls out of the air, come in, and statistically, you have given yourself the advantage. If you're the net player, there's really not much you can do. I mean, you can talk to your partner about not getting into this pattern, and you can try a planned switch. So at some point you're going to take off. But if they're lobs, you can't go over there and hit an overhead off a poach. That's very difficult. I think the problem in this case is not the net player, but it's the net player's partner in the baseline getting into this type of rally. The other frustrating part sometimes for net players is when the baseliners get on an extreme cross-court angle rally.
Yes.
Right. So they cross-court to cross-court to cross-court, and the more angle you hit on the ball, the less your partner can help you. So, I tell players that just because they gave you the alley when you're playing doubles does not mean you should use it. Like, you actually want to keep the ball as much as possible in the singles court. You want your opponents in the singles court because it cuts the angles. Whoever opens the angles first usually gets in trouble. So try to keep the ball in the singles court.
That's a really good point. I know a lot about our clinics that we do. We play doubles, but no alleys. We play serve return, no alleys, and the ladies hate it, but it's good for them.
Yeah, it's great for them. Yeah.
Is there ever a time that players should be playing 2 back on their own serve?
Yeah, absolutely. And at first I was adamant that this was a no. When I first started coaching recreational players, I'm like, this is not doubles.
Yeah.
But now, if you have a weak serve and your opponent's stepping in and ripping a return at the net person and you're not winning any points, bring the service partner back and play 2 back, play defense from 2 back. I'd much rather have a team be 2 back than stuck 1 up, 1 back with the other 2 at the net. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that anymore.
Yeah.
I used to drive me crazy, but you do anything you can to win, right?
Yes.
So if that's tactically the right move to achieve the win, then that's what you have to do.
Do you have any favorite games to develop your double skills?
Favorite games? Yeah, about 1 million of them.
I know you've got 1 million.
Well, one thing that, and Joel, you'll know this, pros never practice 4 on a court, like for doubles. Like I never went to practice doubles with 4 people on the court. It was always me and my partner, cross court, cross court. We draw a line, imaginary line between the service line T and the baseline serving little T. So it's an imaginary line there. So you have my half of the box. So we would play do side to do side, where we would serve volley or play the points cross court, and I would have to cover my half, and she would have to cover her half. and that's pretty much all we did. I mean, I don't, once in a while, if my pro was there, he or well, my pro was always there, but once in a while we would do this where we would place the coach with one of us, so there'd be one against two, but it was still only I would only be playing from my half. So I think that's kind of overlooked with recreational players. It seems like every time they go to practice, it's a clinic and it's one
Yeah.
accord, and they're not really working. When you have two on a court, you can't hit down the line, right? You can only hit cross
Yeah, yeah,
court
that's
two.
right.
So um,
That's a good
so
point.
it reinforces hitting down the line in doubles, which is it's just a terrible shot. It just gets you in so much trouble every time you hit down the line. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm
it's
glad you
great if
said
you hit
that.
the winner, but if you don't hit the winner, you're gonna lose the point. So
Yes.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, 100%. Faking. Uh, are you a big proponent of throwing fakes in there?
Proponent of what?
Faking.
Faking, yes, absolutely. Yeah, the role of the net player, the partner server's partner, their job is to disrupt, and help their partner hold. So if you're just standing there in the middle of a box, or worse yet, if you're standing kind of close to the alley, um, then you're not helping your partner. So standing there, moving, faking and staying, and trying to be as disruptive as possible. I can't tell you how many points I won. Just if, even now when I play, I just do a fake,
Yep.
and people are like, "Oh my gosh, she's going," and then they just miss it. It's so effective.
And the more successful you are, I guess, as a poacher, the more you have to throw the fake in there
Correct.
to be able to keep them
Yeah,
honest.
that's right. Yep.
Um, my next question: what can we do? Like right now, everybody is off the courts. Nobody's really able to practice very much. What can we do right now to improve? I'm guessing we can do things with our continental grip, volleying. Do you have any suggestions for us at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I have a 10 steps to a perfect volley program coming out, and it comes with an ebook, and the ebook is free. It's being offered starting tomorrow. The full blown program, which will be available April 15th, comes with a 7-day practice plan. The ebook comes with the first day of the practice plan. So I have like a full practice plan of things you could do in your house that will help you improve your volleys. The 10 steps to the volley that I talk about are the grip, the ready position, the split step, the turn, the backswing, the posture, the hit, the follow through, the swing path, or the swing path, then the follow through, and then of course the recovery step. So I cover all 10 of those one by one, and have practices that you could do at home. Something really easy that I could share. If you want to work on your split step, draw a hopscotch on your driveway or at home, and practice playing
Yep.
hopscotch like you did when you were a little kid. And that's what a split step is. It's like, 1 2 1 2. Every time you land on the two, that's your split step. And I don't think recreational players are very good about practicing their split steps or even using their split steps. So that's a quick little practice you could do for your split step.
Yeah, I'll share that too tomorrow in a link. So if people are looking for that ebook and the details of that, I'll share that later.
Great.
So most of the time, players that I'm coaching are going in a doubles match. They come up against players they've never seen before. Is there anything that you are scouting in the warm up? Any
Yeah.
hints you can give us for the warm up and how to scout your opponents?
Yeah, so the warm up is not used to warm yourself up. Hopefully, you've already gotten your warm up. The warm up is 100% used to scout your opponents if you don't know them. I mean, of course, on tour we have like a full book on every person, so the warm up is different. But for the recreational players, look for weaknesses right away. If you hit a ball to the middle of a person, usually they'll run around and hit their favorite side. So you can try to discern whether their forehand's better than their backhand. Same thing when they're at the net. If they don't hit overheads, sometimes people don't even warm up their overhead. That's fairly good sign. They don't like to hit overheads. They're not going to hit overheads. Hit lobs with their backhand side and see if they can hit backhand overheads. And then one tip that I have when you're warming up with a team that you don't know, hit one or maybe 90 seconds or a minute with one player, and then switch with your partner. I always switch with my partner when I'm playing a new team. So I've hit with one, and then I go hit with the other one, so I know kind of what ball is coming from them, and I can kind of look at them first before the match starts. And then communicate with your partner. Like after the warm up, come together and say, okay, I saw, maybe the forehand was better. This one they'd like to be at the net. This one's going to have a good overhead or not. And then start to formulate your plan based on that.
How much? Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't really think to ever switch and warm up with the opposite person. But that's a really good
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Um, how do you guys choose to change strategies? Like at the so changeover, you're sitting down, and is there like a lead player that sort of takes charge of those conversations?
So generally we have plans. You know, like a plan A, plan B, plan C. I don't think we purposely say, okay, we're going to change the strategy at a given point. Like, one change of strategy that's fairly common was just have my partner, when I was returning, stand back. Like if the server was serving really well and we were not effective. See, sorry about that. If we weren't effective breaking or getting break points, then I would have my partner stand back. Anytime you're not returning well, have your partner stand back. Takes pressure off. Um, it takes also the target away for your
Yep.
opponents. Um, I don't know if what was refresh me the question. I think I kind of answered it,
And
but not.
yeah, I think you got it. I was just also wondering who sort of takes charges of those
Oh, the changing
conversations.
the plan, yeah. But and then it's communication with your partner. If you're not winning, then you start to get creative, right? I mean, your plan A is always to play your A game. You serve volley, return and come in. That was my A game. If something wasn't working, then we would go to plan B. But um, and sometimes even you'd have to go to plan C. Plan
Yep.
C could be two players back, or plan B could be have my partner back. Plan C would be play the whole point from the baseline. If didn't get to that very often for us, but for some people that would be really effective.
Yeah, that's a good point. What about formation changes? There's
Yes,
so many different ways to
absolutely.
stand on the court, and there's
Yeah,
some people play doubles their entire life. They're standing in the same places. Are
yeah,
there any good formation changes that you suggest?
yeah, absolutely. I think one of my main gripes about recreational players is that they don't mix up their serve enough. They just keep playing serving and losing their serve, and they don't change anything. And to me, that's insanity, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and
Yeah.
expecting different results, right? So if
Yep.
you're not holding your serve, I call you a habitual serve loser. And if you're about to lose your serve for a second time in a set, that's really bad. You're going to lose your set. I think the mentality of a pro is such that losing your serve is like losing your arm, because if you lose your serve, you're gonna lose the set,
Yep.
right? So we try so hard, we grind so bad to try to win our serves, and with recreational players, it's like, oh, because breaking is a lot easier. It's not so hard to serves are not as big. So I think the mentality is like, oh well, if I lose my serve, what's the big deal? I'm gonna break, right? So if you could change your mentality and say, okay, I don't care what I have to do, I'm gonna hold, and you still could break, then you'd win sets 6-2 and 6-3.
Yeah.
One break is 6-3, right? So,
Yes.
but recreational players don't think that way. They think they're not so obsessed about holding serve, and they don't change. There's so many things you can change on your serve. The location of the serve, the speeds and the spins, and the um, formations, Australian I formation,
Yep.
two back. There's so many different things you could do. So I tell players, if they're about to lose the serve for the second time in a row, they must do a formation. You have to change it up. You have to
Yep.
do something different if you're not holding serves.
Yeah. Throw something else in there.
Yeah.
What happens when your partner is having a really tough day, and how do you get them to come back? How do you bring them back? I
That's a
know that's a
tough
tough
one.
question.
Yeah. Yeah, because really you can't do anything for them. I mean, they have to bring it back. I mean, you can remain positive and encouraging and keep, trying to be positive with them. But in the end, they have to bring it back. They're the ones that have to um, kind of pick themselves up. You can't really do it for them. All you can do is stay positive.
Yeah, I guess that's part
Yeah.
of personality
Yeah.
too, being able to be an
Yeah.
uplifting partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I also had a question with junior tennis and having them play more doubles. How are we going to get juniors excited about doubles play?
That's a good question. The fact is that when you turn 30 or 35, you're playing doubles
Yep.
for sure by 40. so
Yeah.
So I don't know how we convince juniors. I mean, they will have. One way is you have a better chance of getting recruited to play college if you play
Yep.
doubles. So maybe that's a way, and also just sort of helping to continue to grow the game of doubles and putting more doubles on TV and giving more notoriety of the double specialist. And right now it's become a bit of a sideshow with the short sets and
Yeah.
no ad, and tiebreakers in the third. So that kind of makes it hard. But it is a sport that you're going to play for the rest of your life, and it's not singles; it's doubles.
Yeah.
So hopefully, getting that message across early on would be helpful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, especially like I'm thinking from this data standpoint. I know data's come out of how successful players are when they get to net and when they serve and volley, men and women. And I think playing doubles is just another way to get that skill set developed.
Right. Exactly.
So hopefully that's something that we can see in the future. Even at the moment, the tennis channel is not playing that much doubles, so it would be good to see more of that, because that's at the end of the day what players play more of here in the States.
Exactly.
So you were saying you had your ebooks coming out tomorrow,
Correct.
which I'll link, and then
it's 10 steps of the perfect volley, and I break each step down and give you suggestions on what to do with each step.
Yeah. So I'll make sure that I link that tomorrow. Is there anything else that you want to let us know about while you're here?
I just hope everybody's staying safe, following the directive of staying at home. I know that people are still playing tennis, and that's great. I mean, tennis is one of the few sports that you can still play. We are more than 6 feet apart. We're on the opposite ends of the court. So if you have a park that's open, I believe people have been saying that tennis is okay. My kids, soccer and baseball, none of those sports, they're all off. You can't really play those. So we're lucky that we play a sport that is somewhat safe. So if you're not able to play, obviously, stay fit, get your workouts in, try to do something at home, and try to stay sane. It's a very difficult period of humanity, and we'll get through it, but it's been tough.
Yeah, difficult times. Hopefully that everyone watches this gets something out of it, and so when they can get back in the doubles court, they can take some of your tips. It would be awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
But thank you, Gigi, so much for coming on. Really appreciate it, and I'll put that link in my story tomorrow, and then people can swipe up and have a look at what you got going on.
That's great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Have a great day.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.